These scriptures tell us that we are blessed when people hate us. It sounds strange, doesn't it? How can you be blessed when you're being hated or excluded? We've all experienced rejection because of our faith, especially from family members. When we think of blessings, we think of positive things according to our standards, being praised, loving each other, having wealth, and even material things. But Jesus flips the script on what the world considers blessings. He says that when you face rejection because of him, you are actually in a blessed position. When people reject the gospel and hate you because you claim to be righteous, that is considered a blessing to God. How can this be? Facing harsh criticism or even being labeled as something you're not is a curse, not a blessing. So what does this mean? It's because when we are rejected, God is accepted. We cannot turn to God when we have others to depend on. It's easier to depend on your spouse, children, and other family members above God. God allows this rejection so that we can only turn to him. It's truly a blessing because God doesn't want to lose you. He wants us to rely and depend solely on him. God never wants us to go elsewhere for love, hope, and peace because he is the source of it. Satan makes us question if this pain is even worth it. But remember, Jesus faced the ultimate rejection and understands exactly what you're going through. Jesus went through so much trial and tribulation to deliver this precious gospel to us. How thankful it is to align ourselves with Jesus' own experiences. God is calling us worthy enough to walk the path that Jesus and the disciples did. He's showing us that our worth isn't defined by how others treat, accept, or praise us. It's defined by how God sees us. He calls us blessed when rejected for Jesus' sake. When you face rejection, you can lean on Jesus more. It's truly an honor to be on the side of Jesus. Those who are wicked claim to be sinners, and under a false humility they judge others. God also blessed them through Jesus, but they fail to realize it. It's truly sad to see so many people rejecting this gospel of salvation. We are testifying to the power of Jesus even when faced with rejection. Although you may not see it now, your faith becomes a powerful witness to others. It is opening doors for others to see Jesus in you. In God's time, they will gravitate towards you because of the faith they see in you. Always remember that your identity is in Him, not how others perceive you. For that which I do I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that do I. If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the law that it is good. Now then it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me. For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good, I find not. For the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do. Now if I do that I would not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me. There exists a perpetual conflict within us, a struggle between our earnest yearning to do good and the undeniable reality of our sinful nature. None of us willingly embrace anxiety, depression, loneliness, or toxicity. Each soul longs to be good, to be trustworthy, to find happiness. Yet the somber truth remains that many cannot see themselves through the lens of Scripture. They either fail to recognize or stubbornly refuse to accept their intrinsic flaws, marred internally and by design. We are born imperfect, yet Satan whispers the seductive lie of perfection, When we strive for this unattainable ideal, we inevitably falter. In our failure, he plants seeds of rebellion against God within our hearts. He fills our minds with despairing thoughts like, "We fail anyway, so what does it matter?" or "I am broken beyond repair." It is profoundly tragic to witness souls led astray in such a manner, ensnared by deceit and disheartened by their own shortcomings. This battle is poetic in its sorrow, a testament to the human condition. The more we yearn for goodness, the more we are reminded of our inherent imperfection. And yet, there lies a deeper truth, a call to acknowledge our brokenness and seek redemption, to understand that our worth is not in our flawed attempts at perfection, but in the grace that embraces us despite our failings. God declares, "If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the law that it is good." This profound statement invites us to embrace actions we naturally resist. When lust beckons, we must turn away. When we feel an aversion to Scripture, we must open the Bible and read. This is God's guidance for our good, challenging our base desires and self-righteous impulses to nurture a vibrant spiritual life. Succumbing to the flesh weakens the spirit, yet yielding to the Spirit diminishes the flesh. In all these struggles, we need grace to accept and trust Paul's wisdom. God endowed Paul with extraordinary grace, enabling him to see himself with clarity and truth. Our spiritual journey is marked by this tension, a dance between flesh and spirit. To cultivate a healthy spiritual life, we must often do what feels unnatural, pushing against the grain of our earthly inclinations. This resistance is not easy, but it is essential. It requires a heart open to grace, ready to receive divine wisdom and strength. Embracing Paul's teachings means acknowledging our imperfections and the constant need for God's grace. It means recognizing that our natural desires often lead us astray, and true fulfillment lies in aligning ourselves with the divine will. Through this alignment, our spirit flourishes, drawing closer to the divine truth and wisdom that sustains us. Paul reveals the root of his inner turmoil, declaring, "Now then it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwelleth in me." This revelation illuminates the profound depth of our need for God's grace. Recognizing that sin resides within us, we understand that we cannot conquer Satan through our deeds alone. Victory comes through acknowledgement and grace. Our inherent connection to Satan predisposes us to naturally follow his wicked paths. This is why it is crucial to deny our thoughts and feelings, for they are the channels through which Satan operates. He cannot force our actions, but he can seduce us with his whispers in our minds. Satan desires to make us feel righteous in our own eyes, deflecting all blame onto others. He centers our attention on ourselves, inflating our egos in the process. His ultimate goal is to prevent us from acknowledging our faults. He will do everything in his power to keep us feeling right in our own eyes. The struggle Paul describes is a universal one, a testament to the human condition. By understanding that sin dwells within us, we come to see our desperate need for divine grace. This awareness is the first step towards overcoming the enemy. It is not through our efforts, but through the humility of recognizing our dependence on God that we find strength. Satan's strategy is insidious. He appeals to our sense of righteousness, making us believe we are blameless. He fans the flames of our ego, obscuring our vision and leading us astray. To counter this, We must be vigilant, denying the deceitful thoughts and feelings that arise within us. We must turn away from the seductive lies and instead seek the truth in humility and grace. In this poetic dance of flesh and spirit, the key is to continually surrender to the divine, acknowledging our flaws and seeking God's guidance. It is through this surrender that we find true freedom, breaking the chains of sin and walking in the light of grace. Paul profoundly articulates, "For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing, for to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good I find not." This verse lays bare the stark truth. Despite our noblest intentions and deepest desires, our flesh alone cannot achieve righteousness. Without God, we are powerless. We must acknowledge our helplessness, recognizing our true sinful nature through faith. Only then can we avoid the perpetual downfall of succumbing to our flesh. God's love for us is boundless, and He does not desire for us to be self-righteous. The more we cling to our perceived righteousness, the more misery seeps into our lives. True liberation begins when we admit our inherent sinfulness. This admission draws us closer to God, allowing us to fully appreciate His mercy and grace. Our efforts alone cannot conquer sin, but through Christ we are bestowed the strength to live victoriously. It is in this dependence on God that we find our true power. By leaning on His grace, we transcend the limitations of our flesh and walk in the light of His love. In acknowledging our sinful nature, we open ourselves to the transformative power of divine grace. This humility is not a mark of weakness, but a gateway to true strength. By surrendering to God, we invite His Spirit to dwell within us, guiding our actions and shaping our desires. As we journey through life, this recognition of our need for God's grace becomes our anchor. It keeps us grounded, preventing us from being swept away by the tides of self-righteousness and pride. In this humble state, we find peace, joy, and the true essence of living in accordance with God's will. Through Christ, we are not only redeemed, but empowered to rise above our flesh, embracing a life of victory and grace.